Welcome to the first briefing of the Planck Scale. My name is Shiv Mehta. Before we dive into the data, I want to establish why we are doing this. The Planck Scale is launched because the financial and geopolitical health of our world is being poorly explained. My mission here is to provide you with a standard operating procedure for a world that feels increasingly chaotic. This podcast is designed to explore the intersection of geopolitics, financial markets, and the physical constants of our world. We discuss the underlying mechanisms, the code, if you will, that governs how resources move and how power is consolidated. Today we are mapping the Sell America protocol. We're going to look at why the government is targeting the Federal Reserve, how a single trade tariff is breaking the world's pipes, and why a frozen island in the north is the new center of global power. Now, before we look at the first pillar of the Sell America protocol, a brief but critical note. While I am providing these briefings based on raw data and structural logic, I am not a financial advisor. This content is for educational and simulation purposes only. The trades we discuss on the Planck Scale platform are executed in a simulated environment within the constant terminal. Always consult with a licensed professional before making real-world financial decisions. We deal in logic, not luck. Now let's look at the first major pillar, the DOJ's criminal probe into Fed Chair Jerome Powell. The media is calling it a renovation scandal, but that's a distraction. We need to look at the mechanism. Think of the Federal Reserve's independence like a smoke alarm in your house. The alarm is designed to be loud and annoying. It beeps by raising interest rates the moment it senses the smoke of inflation. Its only job is to warn you before the whole house catches fire. What we saw yesterday was the first step in ripping the batteries out of that alarm. By targeting Powell, the administration is trying to silence the one thing that warns us when spending is out of control. When you rip the batteries out because you don't like the noise, the fire doesn't stop. It just grows in secret. This creates a runaway chain reaction. The government prints money to pay for things, which makes prices go up, which forces them to print even more money to cover the new cost. Without an independent Fed to sound the alarm, the cycle spins faster and faster until the currency itself breaks. The logic? If the Fed is no longer independent, the US dollar is no longer a constant. It becomes a political variable. The protocol here is that in a house with no smoke alarm, you look for the exit. This is why we are seeing a massive flight into physical constants, things that can't be printed, like gold and silver. Now next, let's talk about the 25% tariff on anyone trading with Iran. To understand this, don't think about trade deals, think about plumbing. Global trade is a series of pipes that move energy and goods. India and China are the two biggest hubs in those pipes. By placing a 25% tax on anyone using the Iran pipe, the US has essentially dumped concrete into the system. It's an asymmetric strike. It doesn't hurt everyone equally. It specifically clogs the pipes of America's biggest competitors. Now, the Indian rupee is already paying a penalty for buying Russian oil. This new tax on their Iran trade is like a second leak in their bucket. The rupee is losing pressure fast. And the constant here is silver. Because China has stopped exporting it and the pipes are clogged, we are facing a physical shortage. You can't run the AI brain of the world without silver, and right now, the plumber has walked off the job. Finally, we have the Greenland Statehood Act. Why is the US trying to buy or annex a frozen island? Think of global power like a huge computer server. For the last 80 years, that server lived in the US and Europe. The hardware is changing. Greenland sits on 1.5 million metric tons of rare earth elements. These are the base ingredients for everything, from the battery in your pocket to the missile in the sky. If you control Greenland, you own the hardware that the rest of the world's software has to run on. This isn't a real estate deal. It's a physical monopoly. The Danish government has said that this ends NATO, which means the security contract we've lived under since 1945 is being cancelled. So what's the logic here? Well, when the contract breaks, people stop trusting paper promises and start wanting the physical ingredients. The protocol here is own the hardware. That is why we are seeing a massive rotation out of tech stocks and into hard assets. As you navigate this first week of the Sell America trade, here are your 3 operational baselines. If your portfolio is mostly digital, which is NVIDIA or tech, you're holding the distortion. Silver just overtook NVIDIA in value, and that is the market telling you that the hardware is now worth more than the hype. Gold, which is a crisis constant at $4,600, is the only proof of reality left in the traditional financial world where the Federal Reserve is being dismantled as we speak. Hold it as your buffer. And finally, as the political dollar becomes a variable, Bitcoin is acting as the escape hatch. It is the only code that doesn't care who is running the DOJ. This was our first briefing. The goal of the Planck Scale is simple: to give you the logic so you aren't a victim of the distortion. The baseline is the truth. Everything else is the distortion. If you found this useful, share it with someone who may need it, and I'll see you in the next briefing.